Welcome to Hollister Hills, California for the 8th annual Top Truck Challenge. I'm Stephen Cox, and they came from everywhere, hundreds of entries from all over Canada and the United States. And out of those hundreds of entries, the editors of Four Wheeler magazine narrowed it down to a field of 65 trucks that they thought could really compete. Well, from those 65, you, the readers, with 22,000 votes, narrowed that field of 65 down to a field of 10. And these are the trucks you're looking at right now. They're absolutely beautiful, but they're not going to be by the time we're done with them. We're going to send them over rocks, send them through mud, send them through the tank trap, everything you can possibly imagine. But we're going to start out by finding out just how flexible they are. Well, the angle of approach and departure is extremely critical for these guys trying to get over obstacles. They'll measure it in degrees. They'll look at the degree of departure and the degree of approach. And, of course, the less overhang you have, the more opportunity you have to climb over big objects.
67.7. Go ahead.
Well, this one is pure and simple. No fancy equations, just a simple measurement of the turning radius of every vehicle. And, of course, tighter is better. Now, this particular portion of the competition is called RTI, Ramp Travel Index, and you gain points by dividing the distance up the ramp by the wheelbase of the truck.
I haven't even stretched my spring out yet.
He calls it Goliath, this bright yellow M38 hauled from Auburn, California. It's owned and driven by David Uhlberg.
I've had it for about 3.5 years now. The history of it is I bought it in original condition from the original owner's son, and I bought it for $900 and drove it home. I essentially built mine for rocks, for driving on granite and big rocks, and there's a lot of mud here, so I've only had the thing in mud once.
It's not a Hummer, it's a bummer. A fiberglass kit body stacked on a 3/4-ton 73 Chevy frame. It belongs to Aaron Clow of Erta, Utah.
I built it mainly for the family aspect of it. We do a lot of trails and sand dunes, and it hauls everybody and a lot of equipment. It's built on GM, so it's fairly simple to get parts and also cheap. It's got a good fuel-injected, light, small block motor, nice big tire with a bead lock. It's got lockers front and rear, and it's just really cool to be here. Not much better than sitting out here, getting ready to beat on it.
Josh Parizeau of South Burlington, Vermont drove across the continent to join Top Truck Challenge. His 93 Jeep Cherokee is nearly stock from the floorboard up. The changes are underneath.
I've always been a Jeep person. So the body's stock, the interior is pretty much stock, the transfer case. Besides that, pretty much everything else that was on it's gone. Having a hard time getting the height out of it for the tire size I wanted, so we had some leaf springs hanging around the shop for an FJ40, and they fit pretty good. Made some custom spring hangers for the front. Changed the axle in the front and put a Dana 44 out of a 76 Bronco.
Gained a lot by doing that.
Sam Patton's CJ7 may have hot suspension, 39-inch boggers, and a tune-port fuel-injected 350, but Sam says it was also built for real life.
We wanted to build a vehicle that was realistic and looked like something that could be, drove every day. And I mean, we could put a soft top on it and drive it every day if we wanted to, because, the heater works in it, the windshield wipers, the speedometer works, and it's street legal. We also wanted to beef up the suspension and the axles, so when we did go to the rock crawl challenges and events like this, that, it'd hold up.
On the outside, it's a 62 F100. Under the hood, it's a 69 Olds 455, and owner Cliff Steelman runs his combination on 44-inch Swampers.
I was 15 and a half when I bought the truck. Shortly after I bought it, blew up the motor, so started working on it. So replaced the motor with another motor of the same type. Still didn't have enough power. Went to an Olds 455, had a Granny 4-speed in it before and everything, and just made it to where it's all come from idle up and even below idle. Because when we're running in the snow, we'll have it going so slow that the oil pressure is down to about 5 pounds.
Brent Gigabur of Sumner, Washington owns this 1950 CJ3A. It's been half a century since Jeep built it, and Brent says it needed a few improvements.
Originally bought it for $500 from a customer. I was driving home, saw it there sitting on blocks. Thought it'd be a great thing to take home and beat up, so we built it, a lot of it in our spare time. Been working on the new suspension, just put new sway-away coils in it and nitrogen-charged tanks. And motor, 3 buddies and I put that in. Edelbrock intake manifold. It's a B&M blower. As soon as I put the blower on, had a definite overheating problem, so we went to a new radiator and twin electric fans. Paint job was done by my father-in-law. Front and rear winches for back home. Whenever we have any trouble, we can go either way. We built it for short, tight trails. We have turns, everything's trees in Washington, and lots of rain, mud. This is completely different terrain.
Jake Hallenbeck of Reno, Nevada bought his '87 Suzuki Samurai as a weekend runabout, but quickly realized that he was desperately short on horsepower.
Started pretty much as a little weekend beater, and over 2 years, it's just pretty much we've built it up, started debuting new stuff on it, and it's pretty much ground up now. Did Toyota 8-inch axles, 529 gears, and custom shackle reverse in the front with dual shackles in the rear. And then one thing we've been starting doing a lot of and trying to get it out is 16-valve motor swaps out of sidekicks, which doubles your power. Home's Reno, Nevada, and pretty much there's a lot of canyons there. So that's why we started the canyon crawlers.
Steve Rumer's Sniper is the only tube frame vehicle in Top Truck Challenge this year. It features 2.5-ton military axles and a Chevy 406 V8.
The guys at the shop and myself, we get a lot of satisfaction out of building different things, and is kind of a guinea pig for new ideas for the shop. We decided to set the whole chassis up. It's 2 inches higher now than it normally is. We readjusted the coilover. We felt that a little bit higher center of gravity wouldn't hurt us.
Do you get like Apollo mission jokes or anything about that?
Yeah, moon buggy, is that approved by NASA? Yeah.
Roger Bernard of Alberta, Canada fabricated the entire body of this vehicle himself. And this year, he's the only competitor to carry the Maple Leaf.
Well, I came straight off the factory line from Calgary. Just kidding. Trying to make it multi-purpose to cover all the aspects of four-wheel driving. The frame comes from a Chevy 1-ton 3+3, which was reduced in length by about 4 or 5 feet. The bodywork is my own design and just fabricated in my own garage. I've been doing four-wheeling for about 10 years, and really it was just from past experiences of what broke and what didn't break. So I just tried to put it all in one package, basically.
Kevin Kalin's Scrambler has been a family affair from the start. His wife, even his kids all lend a hand, and they're the ones who came up with Siberian Stripes.
Usually we four-wheel every weekend and get a chance. A lot of sloped hills, some rock, some water crossings, there's some mud, but prefer to stay on the rocks and the dirt is what we built the vehicle for. We actually cut it in half. I took a saw and cut it in half and stretched it. It was a CJ7, and I stretched the frame and the body 24 inches.
How much blood, sweat, and tears do you have in this vehicle?
More time than money, but plenty of both. So it's a lot of work. My wife and I, we're not painters, but we actually striped that vehicle. 16 hours of striping. We were fortunate enough to be picked, and then we actually make the top 10. It's an honor to be here. So I'll push it as hard as I have to.
Here's how they stacked up after the scores were in, with the average ground clearance. The Bummer, the Roger-Built, and the F100 rounded out the top three. The angle of approach and departure went by a wide margin to the Sniper in first place, followed by the Flatty and the CJ7. The Sniper's four-wheel steering came into play on the turning radius measurements. Again, an easy win for the Sniper, followed by the Flatty, and this time the Cherokee. And in the wheelbase Ram Travel Index measurements, the only competitor to top 1,000 was Goliath, followed by the CJ7 and again the F100. Next, in the engineering and show and shine competitions, our competitors get a chance to impress the judges with their engineering prowess, showing off such things as steering design, axle strength, gearing, lockers, and the appearance of the engine bay, the interior and the exterior of the vehicle. In the engineering department, Sam Patton's CJ7 came out on top of the Sniper and the Samurai. They nailed down the first three positions. In the show and shine competition, it was an easy win for Kevin Kalin's Scrambler, followed by the Suzuki Samurai and Sam Patton's CJ7 in third place. The last event of day one at the Top Truck Challenge is the Ride and Drive, where competitors take the judges on a 2-mile ride on paved roads throughout Hollister. Jake Hallenbeck's Suzuki Samurai turned out to be a joy to drive, even on the roads. It was followed by the CJ7 and the Bummer. Four Wheeler's Top Truck Challenge is sponsored by Four Wheel Parts Wholesalers. Be sure and visit them at fourwheelparts.com.
Nobody gets you inside the world of four-wheeling like Four Wheeler Magazine. Join the editors of Four Wheeler for some extreme action, vehicle testing, expert advice, and how-to articles. Call 1-800-767-3800 to get your free trial issue now, and you'll receive 11 more issues at 79% off newsstand prices. Four Wheeler is the most popular 4x4 magazine. Call 1-800-767-3800 to receive your free trial issue and save 79%. Call now.
Nature's perfection, the Nautilus shell. Exact duplication chamber to chamber, consistent from shell to shell. Precision Gear targets the same excellence in each of the ring and pinion gear sets. Performance engineered and precision manufactured. The highest quality ring and pinion gear sets on the market, set after set. To make it in the shell game of motorsports, you need precision, durability, and you want your gear set built and tested to deliver the winning advantage race after race. Precision Gear delivers consistently, time after time.
Well, here's where our top truck drivers get to play drag racer. This is the acceleration and braking testing. Now, in order to complete this portion of Top Truck Challenge, we've come all the way out to Hollister Airport and commandeered one of the aircraft runways. Now, we've marked off a certain portion of it, and these guys get a chance to nail the throttle and go as fast as they possibly can. Then, when they're done, we turn them right back around, get them up to 40 miles an hour, and this time, see how quickly they can stop.
We've got a couple little motor bugs, and we're going to give it our best shot.
Rogerville vehicle did some damage on the acceleration course out here at the Hollister Airport. But like good top truck challengers that they are, they've got spare parts, they've got help from other competitors. They're going to get it back together, and then they're going to do the braking testing right after that.
Type this up road so we can find it.
Well, now the toe test is where things really get tough. You got to have a lot of horsepower to make this work. Now, Anthony Terry is our cat driver, and he's got a bird's eye view of the whole thing. And this thing weighs 17,000 pounds, and it's got this huge steel cable. Follow me along this cable, and right in the middle of it, you're going to notice a big link. Now, they've tried to lengthen it as much as possible so that they would have an opportunity to tear up as little ground as possible, because these guys have to have good, solid footing to really get going.
On your mark, get set, go.
We did great. Got dirt in your lens.
You know, I am really surprised at how many people have already made it to the top. Have you done anything like this before?
No, I've done a little sand pulling, but this isn't no caterpillars yet.
A lot of wheel spin on the takeoff, and we've really had some guys struggle to get out of the hole, but it seems like once they get on the hill, once they start to get up the incline and build some momentum, that's when they really take off. And it looks like he's going to be yet another guy to take this thing all the way to the top. Congratulations. Is making his way up, and he's getting off to a slow start. And Jim, it seems like a lot of these guys are getting a lot of wheel spin at the very bottom.
Yes, they're finding the traction at the bottom may just be a little looser.
I think that's mainly from previous competitors, but that's not his only problem.
Looks like Dave broke a drive shaft, broke a front drive shaft.
Now tell me what happened on the way up. You obviously lost the drive shaft, but did it handicap you too bad, or were you already up?
It handicapped me a little bit, slowed me down, but hell, full throttle and get it up here. I got a big ass rear end, we moved.
Jim, it almost looks like it didn't actually break.
No, the spline pulled out of the yoke as part of that long travel suspension. As it went down so far that it allowed the spline of the drive shaft to pull right out of the yoke of the transfer case.
Is that just problems with the flexibility that the chassis has to absorb on the way up the hill under that pressure?
Yes, it is, and oftentimes that's countered by creating longer splines for those drive shafts.
The toe test is usually a distance competition, but this year the field was so strong, 10 out of 10 competitors made it to the top. The F100 did it quickest. The frame twister was next. Now it may look easy, but looks are definitely deceiving. The twister is roughly 50 yards long and starts out with 2 deep water holes that only swallow one side of the vehicle. After that comes a bed of rocks and logs that must be traversed. Adding to the difficulty is the fact that the logs are placed unevenly, so the driver must rely on a combination of momentum, finesse, the proper line, and luck to make it through.
Definitely harder than it looks.
This event has a 10-minute time limit per competitor. Now running over a cone, leaving the perimeter of the course, or winching will all add 20 points to your score. Having to stop will add 1 penalty point, while backing up or having anyone exit the vehicle will result in 2 penalty points. That means the competitor with the lowest penalty point count and the quickest time is your winner. Well, Jake, you really surprised me. I thought you were going to winch long before you did. What was the strategy?
Well, we thought we'd be able to get off that log, and obviously not. Front tire, that axle was just stuck there, and thought it was going to power right over it, but wouldn't get that right front tire on it.
Well, Jim, here's a truck we expect a lot of, and here's a guy that expects a lot of himself. Steve Rumer came into this with a tremendous amount of confidence. He can take one look at the design and see why.
He has tremendous flexibility, big tires, soft tires. There he goes. He just made it through.
Steve, I'm really surprised that you attacked those last logs as hard as you did. I thought you might have broke something.
I wasn't really breaking anything. I just wanted to get out of there. My plan was to get in the logs and just shoot diagonally straight across and keep the tires kind of alternating back and forth, and that last one spun us straight, and then we got snagged, so we had to keep working it.
Well, Cliff Steelman pulled all the way from Washington for this, and he ran into some early problems there, Jim, as soon as he got to those logs.
That's right, but you can see what happened was he didn't have his rear lockers in. Reached up, flipped a switch, and then he went a few more logs.
And I think he's got the worst possible wheelbase combination for this.
And now he's doing a little strategy here. He knows that this is only 20 points to winch the rest of the way out.
Well, Sam Patton's going to give it a go, and this guy is bringing a Jeep product out. We got a lot of Jeep products out here this year.
That's right, we do. And Sam has a reputation for hitting things hard, and you'll see he has earned that reputation quite well. And Sam seldom breaks. He prepares his rigs very carefully, and this Jeep has a lot of very strong components under it.
Boy, it better the way he's treating it. He really abused that thing going over the first 3 logs, and now they've decided to get up here and winch as quick as they possibly could. They had to think this strategy out in advance.
That's right, they did. And that's what we say. Sometimes it's an advantage to go first, second, or third. Other times, the later competitors figure out, wait a minute, we will be able to make more points, this is a points-driven event, by doing just what Sam did.
And he sends mud flying everywhere, even our direction, and a big congratulations. Got to be one of our quickest competitors through this time. Jim Pyatt told me a minute ago, he said this guy has a reputation for hitting things hard.
Yeah, this is what we do in Oklahoma, so we're used to this mud.
So it doesn't hold any surprises for you at all?
No, this is what we do.
Well, once you got to the very end,
yes, sir,
and you stalled out on the last log, I noticed that your spotter immediately jumped straight out. Was that a pre-planned strategy to winch?
Right, yeah, because everyone's been getting stuck on these last logs, so we knew we would too, so we had everything ready and just tried it one time, and then when it wouldn't go, he went out and hooked up to the cap there, and we got out.
Aaron Cloud gets the go sign and drags one of the biggest machines that we've got out here. across the frame twister's beginning. Now tell me if that's going to be an advantage or a disadvantage to have such a big wheelbase.
Well, in this case, it may be an advantage because he may be able to get those front wheels over that last log before the back wheels hit the other one. But here we are. He's found another couple of logs that are matching his wheelbase, and therefore he is stopped at the moment.
Jim, up next we have Kevin Kalin in the Scrambler.
Oh, there he goes. He's gotten it on an angle, and the wheelbase monster has bit him.
And it looks like he may be hung up on some drive shaft under there.
Yes, he has, and he's taking the strategy of let's get that winch out and let's move this vehicle out of here.
They'll winch, they'll take a 20-point penalty, but was it worth it?
Figured we'd pull the winch cable just as quick as we could and get us out of there. It threw us for a good little loop there. Once it bounced us to the side, we knew we was in trouble. Just go ahead and winch it out. If we'd have broke something, we'd be in there working on it in the dirt and covered with mud. We'll take the 20 points for the winch.
Well, David Hulberg was the next competitor, and he tried something that was a little out of the ordinary for a short wheelbase vehicle. He tried to attack the log straight on instead of going sideways. Well, he got high-centered, got hung up before he even reached the final log, and they tried to winch out as quickly as possible, but the winch wouldn't cooperate. They had difficulty with their winch. They eventually did get out, though, but their difficulties weren't nearly as bad as the ones experienced by Josh Parazone. Josh got hung up after he stranded himself on a log, broke his drive shaft, and he had to be pulled out the old-fashioned way. Josh became one of 3 competitors to run out of time in the frame twister. The time limit was 10 minutes. Sam Patton's CJ7 came out in first place, followed by the Bummer, and then Kevin Kalin's Scrambler.
On your mark, get set, go!
Decked out in goggles or rain suits or whatever they brought, the competitors were told to get ready for the mud pit. Now it's time to get dirty. Well, those of you who are experienced Top Truck Challenge fans know that the mud pit has changed quite a bit. In fact, take a look down here with me along these pylons. This little berm right here last year was completely covered in water. I mean, we had water 3, 4, 5 feet high in some places down through the mud pit. Well, this year, that's not the case. You have to deal with the mud, and that's all. Instead, they put the pylons up so you cannot use last year's strategy of trying to have one tire creep along the side of the wall and pull the rest of your vehicle. Doesn't work that way this year. You get in the mud, you get dirty, like it or not. Last question before you go out. Do you hit it as hard and as fast as you possibly can, or do you feather the throttle?
Wide open.
Kevin, you promised us a wide open show, and you certainly delivered. Would you have done it any other way?
Yeah, I would have liked to stay straight. I think I could have done a lot better. It would have turned me sideways and drug the belly sideways. I was pretty much in trouble.
You know, it's not just mud. They had to work very, very hard to get all that mud into the mud pit this year. And Joe, they did it completely different. Tell me what the scoop is.
Well, this is part of our resource management project. And what we do is we collect all the sediment that's leaving the park or trying to leave the park, and we have these ponds that catch it all. Well, this particular pond that we picked this mud from is real gooey stuff, and it's kind of like snot that won't let go of other snot. And so when they get it on the tires, they're not going anywhere because it's slippery, and it's progressive. It starts off with less than 6 inches, and the further you go, it goes all the way to about 3.5 feet.
Well, you know, we're all very proud of him, but I don't want to give you a hug, Sam. You know, I mean, congratulations. That was a really nice room. Man, you are fixed up here, though.
I was prepared. Our strategy was to go in there and try to get on the left side and ride that bank a little bit, and it paid off. Got real lucky. Had plenty of tire speed, so just kind of ran out of room.
Well, it looked like your strategy paid off. Now all you have to do is figure your way out of those clothes.
I know. I need to get clean.
Nobody made it through the entire mud pit, but Sam Patton's CJ7 went 96 feet. The Sniper and the Flatty tied for second. And now we have a small rock collection for our competitors. Actually, a 135-foot stretch of 6-foot boulders that we call the mini-rubicon. The rules are exactly the same as they were with the frame twister, with the exception of a 20-minute time limit on the mini-rubicon as opposed to a 10-minute time limit. Also, a 20-point penalty for those who cannot make it out under their own power. David Hulberg's luck went from bad to worse to much worse in the mini-rubicon. In the opening seconds of the competition, he snapped a drive shaft. He had to run all the way up the hill into the parking lot to retrieve a new drive shaft, and he slips coming back down.
Pop good. Pop. Mary. And I broke it several times before.
The ankle injury forced David to both clutch and brake with his left foot. An obvious major disability in the mini-rubicon, but it didn't matter. They popped another drive shaft and ended up winching themselves home. The next competitor was Josh Parizeau, who brought his Cherokee out and encountered an identical problem to what he ran into in the frame twister. It was the front drive shaft that eventually let go about 20 or 30 feet into the mini-rubicon. Not to be dismayed, they carried on as best they could with rear-wheel drive only, but they eventually had to be hauled out. Well, Kevin Kalin wants to make this worth his while. I mean, this guy hauled 50 hours from South Carolina.
Yes, he's a good thinker. He has a well-prepped machine, and he does a careful job, but an aggressive job at the same time.
And the guy tossing around the rocks here is his co-driver, Robin Stover. There's an interesting story how they got together.
He didn't have a co-driver, and a gentleman from out here was chatting with him. At the end of that chat, this gentleman became his co-driver. So the fellow who's out there helping him and running and and just doing everything he can to help him. Is someone he just met.
But despite the fact that they just met, they work very well together. This is one of the more methodical runs that we've seen, but don't let that deceive you. These guys are making very, very good time out here. As I understand it, you guys a few days ago had not even met. Tell me the story about how you got together with Mr. Kalin.
Well, he was pulling his Jeep out of his trailer and he needed some help, and I came up and offered a hand.
I don't know much about rocks, hadn't really been on them much, and he's familiar with them, and he really helped me out. You give credit where credit's due. All I did was turn that wheel the way he told me to. He deserves all the credit.
Where we're from, there's a lot of mud and stuff, so we like to do things different. So going to the rock crawl challenges, which is completely different, prepares you for the staggering of the rocks and make sure your differentials don't hit.
It looked like it from the very beginning that you had the travel and the extension on the wheels to get the job done.
Yeah, that's what this rig was built for, was the rocks, and we really wanted that one bad.
You did it with the spotter. You chose to use a spotter, and you seem to rely on him pretty heavily. I saw you change direction specifically because of what he said. Is that what got you up there?
Absolutely. That's the way all the rock crawling competitions are based on, and that's our plan. So it's worked for us in the past. We decided to stick to it, take the 2 points, and have a clean run.
Well, Jake Hollenbeck is from Reno, Nevada, so you can be sure that these rocks are absolutely nothing new to him. Nevertheless, he got hung up on one very early, high-centered on a rock, and decided if you can't move the rock, you might as well move your samurai. Well, after a few moments, it actually worked, and this, believe it or not, turned into one of the samurai's better runs. Jake made a very nice, clean run, and he did it in good time. Roger Bernard and the Roger build also came on very strong through the mini-rubicon. This guy got a little aggressive. Now again, he was plagued with busted drive shafts throughout the competition, but he was very, very aggressive in the mini-rubicon, and it too paid off for him. Steve Rumer's Sniper came in first place, the CJ7 in second, and the Scrambler in third position.
We are going to run the hill class today.
Wait. There you go.
So you think you'll come out of this alive?
Oh, hell yeah, this ain't nothing. Nothing at all, I ain't scared.
Head up for an interview.
This is the hill where the spectators all hang out and watch what's going on the other hill. Now this hill is steep enough, but check that one out. If it looks straight up and down, that's because it just about is. I've walked that one and it is absolutely killer. Well, the Sniper's getting ready to go right now, and he will be the last of the competitors in the first round of competition. So far, no one has made it, but this guy really has a shot at it. He's got a full head of steam, just about one truck length to go, and he's going to make it. Steve Rumer's done it. He's the first guy to the top of the hill. Though it was very late in the day, the drivers were gathered together, and it was explained to them that they could now have an optional second run. If they were unhappy with their first run, they could go back, make another, but they had to keep the points off the second run. No matter how good or bad it was, they could not revert back and take their first run. Now here's the deal. Once you lose your momentum, like him, you're dead in the water. It's over. If you can make it all the way to the top, then you're judged by the best time. Well, Jake Hollenbeck's 87 Samurai will try it again. Now, here's a guy who really had it tough his first time trying to make the top. And look at him go now. He is very, very close. And I'll tell you, for a guy with a four-cylinder under the hood, he's doing a fantastic job with it. He's still digging, and look at him work the wheel left and right, back and forth, but he makes it. Well, Josh is going to take yet another run, a second run in his Jeep Cherokee. Had some hard times the first time, really didn't get up very far, and this is actually a considerable plus over his first run. So the second one will do him just a little bit of good. He gets probably another 30 or 40 yards up the hill, so that will weigh in his favor as a second round run. Well, Kevin Kalin's successful run wraps up the second day's competition, and it also wraps up this particular event for Kevin. His Scrambler finished first, followed by the Sniper and CJ7. 4-Wheeler's Top Truck Challenge is sponsored by 4-Wheel Parts Wholesalers. Be sure and visit them at 4wheelparts.com.
Nobody gets you inside the world of four-wheeling like 4-Wheeler Magazine. Join the editors of 4-Wheeler for some extreme action, vehicle testing, expert advice, and how-to articles. Call 1-800-767-3800 to get your free trial issue now, and you'll receive 11 more issues at 79% off newsstand prices. 4-Wheeler is the most popular 4x4 magazine. Call 1-800-767-3800 to receive your free trial issue and save 79%. Call now.
Nature's perfection, the Nautilus shell. Exact duplication chamber to chamber, consistent from shell to shell. Precision Gear targets the same excellence in each of the ring and pinion gear sets. Performance engineered and precision manufactured. The highest quality ring and pinion gear sets on the market, set after set. To make it in the shell game of motorsports, you need precision, durability, and you want your gear set built and tested to deliver the winning advantage race after race. Precision Gear delivers consistently, time after time.
Day 3 at Top Truck Challenge began with the obstacle course, a course designed to test both the flexibility and the maneuverability of the competitors' vehicles. Now, the competitors were told in advance that it would be a timed competition, and every time they knocked over one of the cones, it would add 2 seconds to their overall time. They were also given an opportunity to walk the course first, and were told to watch out for that first corner because it was a killer.
Basically what he did is front end on the axle assembly, pushed back on the driveline, back into the tranny, back into the transfer case, and the adapter from tranny to transfer case couldn't take the brunt.
Spare driveline, it was too long.
Is that the problem?
That's exactly what happened.
Put the spare driveline on there, it was longer than
Twisted
normal.
the other one into a pretzel yesterday, and this one was too long, and it...
Once he put that on there, that's all it took.
Do it. That company did not run out of power at all, did it?
Carbureted.
Well, Jake, it looked like you had a little bit of problem negotiating that first left-hander. Did he give you trouble?
It's got a little wide, it's a little too fast and two turns, so I was trying to keep it fast. Thought I'd be able to turn better than that, but guess not.
And regardless of how many people went over the top, the longer wheel-based vehicles still had trouble negotiating that first turn. In fact, the F100 blew out a power steering box and a front axle. Now see, when you stand up there, you can't tell. There's a lot of stuff that you can't see. But if you take a close look down here from another angle, you'll see a huge 3.5-foot bump. It's just a complete drop off right here. And this whole crest just kind of crowns off right here. This is what almost completely flipped Josh's Jeep Cherokee over. This is what broke the Roger built machine, completely tore the drive shaft out of that thing. So this is causing people a lot of problems trying to get to that finish line. How well is that ankle holding up?
I don't know. It's fine with the gas. It's just a brake, man. Oh.
They had a
fire again.
You had a hard time getting out of that left-hand turn as well. Was that primarily because the turn is so tight, or because your ankle was killing you, or both?
It was tight, and I was having trouble shifting through it with my ankle.
The short wheelbase and tremendous maneuverability of the Suzuki Samurai was good enough for first place, followed by the Sniper and the CJ7. The tank trap was the only event that remained after the obstacle course, but three of our competitors were not ready to go any further. Cliff Steelman's F100 needed a new front axle and a power steering box, while Aaron Klu's Bummer had a busted transfer case adapter.
Yeah, we're going to put them back in definitely straight up, see if I can keep these bearings in there.
Roger Bernard stole the drive shaft off of his own tow rig in a last-ditch effort to continue the competition after breaking that drive shaft in the obstacle course. He knew that he'd drawn the #1 slot in the tank trap and he'd have to go through some very, very deep water. They've added water to try to make the tank trap more difficult. Some of the more experienced judges, all these judges have done this before themselves and are past champions. Now, many of them came out and said, guys, this is too easy. We don't want it to be this easy. We want it to be more difficult. So we've spent about a half an hour just delaying everything to get more water down into the holes to make the tank trap even tougher. So wish Roger some luck. He's going to need it. the entire story on the tank trap, be sure and order tape 2 of 4-Wheeler's Top Truck Challenge.